on President Kennedy's desk, the symbol of supreme power, sat a dried, blackened coconut mounted on a wooden base. In 1943, this very coconut snatched Kennedy from a dead end of the Pacific. He brushed past death 3 times on that desert island, miraculously surviving each one. But he didn't know then, death is patient. On that day, the seeds of his assassination were already sown, simply waiting 20 years to bloom. Let's rewind to 2 a.m., August 2nd, 1943. Kennedy is commanding the PT-109 torpedo boat, patrolling the Solomon Islands. Without warning, the Japanese destroyer Amajirai emerges from the darkness, charging at 30 knots. There was 0 reaction time. In just 10 seconds, the plywood boat was sliced in half like a block of butter. Aviation fuel detonated instantly, turning the sea into an inferno. 2 crewmen were vaporized on the spot, no bodies to be found. In the moment the hull shattered, Kennedy was slammed hard onto the deck. He survived, but with a crisp crack, his spine suffered permanent, irreversible damage. That injury was the deadliest trap set that night. To dodge Japanese patrols and bloodthirsty sharks, Kennedy made a decision that bordered on madness. Clamping his teeth onto the life jacket strap of his badly burned comrade, McMahon, he towed him through fuel-filled water for 4 full hours, 3.5 miles. With every stroke, his shattered spine screamed. They crawled ashore to rejoin the crew on a sandbar called Plum Pudding Island. The name sounded sweet, but the reality was pure shit. It was a bird guano island. No fresh water, no food, just a baking sun. To survive, these future war heroes had 0 dignity left. They tried drinking rain, but it was laced with bird droppings on the leaves. Nauseating. Worse. To fill their stomachs, they frantically ate raw, unripe wild coconuts. The result was severe bacterial dysentery for everyone. Can you imagine a group of American GIs naked, shitting themselves to exhaustion, all while hiding in the bushes from Japanese searchlights? This is real survival. No romance, just humiliation. Desperate, Kennedy led the men to another island. Here, he met the 2 native scouts who held his fate in their hands, Buku and Eroni. But this encounter almost became his execution scene. At first, the natives glanced at Kennedy from afar. Because he was covered in oil and stubble, they mistook him for Japanese. They turned their canoe around and paddled away. Kennedy stood on the shore, watching his only lifeline vanish. If those 2 hadn't gotten thirsty later and come back to steal coconuts, Kennedy's story would have ended right there. When they bumped into each other in the bush, Eroni was holding a captured Tommy gun. Out of sheer terror, the native raised a muzzle, finger on the trigger. Those were the most dangerous 5 seconds in history. If that gun went off, or if Kennedy reached for a knife, there would be no one to solve the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. Kennedy didn't move. He raised his hands and screamed that one word, "American! American!" The misunderstanding cleared. With no paper, Kennedy pulled out a small knife and carved a rescue message onto this coconut shell. The natives risked death crossing Japanese lines to deliver it. Kennedy was saved. He became a hero, then president. He invited that coconut into the White House as a trophy for defeating death. But he forgot. That crash left him with something else. Because of the shattered spine from the 1943 collision, Kennedy's second half of life required him to wear a rigid back brace just to stand. This brace acted like a corset, locking his torso tight. 20 years later, November 22nd, 1963. When the first bullet pierced his neck, it wasn't fatal. The human instinct is to curl up in pain, to crumple forward. If he had gone down, the front petition would have blocked the fatal second shot, but he couldn't. That brace, worn to treat the old wound from a 1943 crash, forcibly held his body up, making him sit as stiff as a target. 5 seconds later, the second bullet roared in. He escaped the death penalty on that island in 1943. But death never crossed his name off the list. It just gave him a back brace and patiently waited 20 years. Death never left